There was 40 bands on the line, $40,000 on the table. They weren't offering exposure, no clout, no hypothetical money. This was real cash. And somehow the biggest threat to that money wasn't the enemy team. It was this bitch's ego. What followed from there, though, wasn't drama. It was a complete behavioral collapse, documented in real time across streams, tweets, apologies, deletions, and eventually sponsors walking away. So let's begin the autopsy. This was the Deadpool Creator Cup. It was a Marvel Rivals tournament, 48 creators, 40,000 motherfuckers to be won by the winning team. 40 real $1,000 is not hypothetical. Meaning one thing mattered. You had to win. Literally, you just had to win. This wasn't ranked, it wasn't casual, we're not, it wasn't let's vibe out. This was a competition, and competition only respects outcomes. That distinction matters because everything that followed only happened once the truth was ignored. On one team, you had two realities. One player was rank 1. This guy was at the top of the ladder, not rank 1 in the tournament. He wasn't, the expected favorite. This guy was number 1 in the world. On keyboard and mouse, and he did it again in controller. Top of the ladder. So there's a proven player on this team. Another player insta-locked Black Widow and then proceeded to go 0-5. Let's pause here because people love to lie to themselves about this. Everybody has bad games. I get it. Yep. It's true. But Marvel Rivals uniquely has a roughly 90% kill participation. What does that mean? Here we go. So what it means is if your team gets a kill, you usually had a hand in it. So when a player is 18-2, the number 1 ranked 1 in the world right now, the guy that we're talking about, he's 18-2. And the other person is 0-5 and 0. So they're 0-5-0. We're not talking about bad luck no more. They're completely absent. I mean, put it like this. If you open a Kit Kat wrapper too loud, you get an assist. To get an assist in Marvel Rivals, you need a heartbeat and a monitor. Literally, that's it. So the rank 1 player does something completely normal. There's money on the line, keep that in mind. He suggests, hey, how about a switch? Let's have a switch. No yelling, no insulting, no harassing, just a regular suggestion. Anybody would have suggested this at this point, and a rational human being would go, wow, there's money on the line. I have 0-5-0. Let me just jump off this character. In competition environments, this lasts 3 seconds. You adjust, you move on, and that's the end of it. Again, you guys keep rocking out. But here, the suggestion wasn't heard as strategy, it was heard as disrespect. And that's where the whole logic decided to depart and exit the room. This is where the psychology of the situation enters. Because the feedback aimed at performance is manageable. Anyone can manage performance-based feedback. Hey, you're not doing so hot. Let's have a swap. It happens all the time in game. If you play Marvel Rivals or Overwatch or anything else where you're playing like hot garbage, somebody's going to say, hey, bro, time to hang up the Spidey. You're 0-11, it's time to switch. Your pick's not working, turned into you're attacking me. Of course, but we're going to get to that. And they're clearly not the same thing, but emotionally, I'm not even going to say they can feel identical because you have to have some sort of emotional, you got to be emotionally stunted or something to make that mistake with the distinction. If you're not doing well and someone says, hey, let's just have a swap, they're not bagging on you. They're just saying, like, let's get a switch going. So the conversation there just stopped, being about winning. It became about the entire tone, about vibes and comfort, and not a scoreboard or anything. We're not talking about that no more. Leadership now had a choice. Option 1 was we can address the performance, or option 2 was we can address the discomfort. I'm going to give you guys a second to guess what they chose. And the moment you prioritize someone's emotional safety when there's winning and money and trophies and shit on the line, it becomes, you're blurring competitive reality now. You basically just lost right there. Because competition doesn't care how safe you feel, it only cares what works. Okay, then came this sentence that ended everything. We chose good vibes. That sentence pretty much disqualified the leadership instantly. If vibes won tournaments, then we wouldn't need coaches or substitutions or benching, no drafts, nothing. It's just at that point, everybody just have fun, right? But that's not what we're here for. We're here for the aforementioned $40,000. And I gotta just say here, if the shoe had been on the other foot, I'm pretty sure this dude would have been called every name in the entire book. But being that didn't happen, and I see this a lot in gaming in general, and I don't want to be that guy, but if you happen to tell a certain type of person that they're not playing well, it turns into A versus B. And I'm not going to get into the whole what the A is and what the B is and what the certain type of person is. I'm sure you guys can discern that, but it happens too often, and usually not on a grand stage like this. And I think really what needed to happen was, I think this shit needed to be addressed the way it was, and we needed to see it in real time. Because realistically speaking, if you go back to the Overwatch days, this shit was happening all the time. So let's not act like it wasn't, but whatever. Vibes don't win games, decisions win games, and the decision was made, and it was simple. Remove the best player. The guy that just coached you and said, hey, this isn't working, just carried the team 1v6ing. He's like, I think 18-2 at this time when the whole thing hits the fan, when he starts getting a little frustrated. I'm not even gonna say he lost his shit. The dude got frustrated, rightfully so, right? So at this point, you have to say to yourself, what's really happening here? Guess what? They fucking lose. The player they remove goes live. Dude makes thousands of dollars in minutes. He didn't rage. He didn't run no smear campaign. It was just support. Reality did what it needed to do and corrected the situation faster than any potential debate could. Because, nobody gives a shit about narratives anymore. We're past all of that. These days are gone. And, it's angering at some point, because, why do you feel that you can do that? You whether or not you needed the money, most of these egos don't need that kind of money, because they get, attention and money for playing like dog shit. And now we have an apology. Except realistically, if you already seen it, it's not an apology. It was more like complicity. It was compliance. I realize people want an apology. That sentence will tell you everything you need. When you gotta show up and go, I realize people wanted an apology. I mean, you already know what's happening here. That sentence clearly says everything you need to know. Not, oh, I was wrong, or I handled this poorly. Nah, just please make this stop. It's not remorse at that point. You're just doing reputation management. And luckily, thank God, because we've seen this 1,000 times, the internet can smell the difference immediately. So now we have the receipt segment, where now screenshots are starting to pop up. You got Discord logs, private messages. You got discussions about replacing Kingsman, including statements calling him replaceable. How is the number one player in the entire leaderboard, or whatever's going on right now, this guy is number one, straight up, and you're calling him replaceable? How do you call this guy replaceable? Whatever. Which directly contradicted public claims. At this point, there were two sides, there were two stories, and only one of them had timestamps. Luckily, we got those said timestamps, and we're gonna go through some of it here and there. And of course, the narrative shifts again. And now it's, everyone was cringe and everyone was wrong. This tournament shouldn't have been competitive. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Really interesting. Because, hold on a minute, because nobody said that when there was money on the line. The competition only became toxic after accountability showed up. There's no philosophy behind that. It's just hindsight protection at best. and we know what this is, and we're not going to call it what it is, but this behavior is ridiculous because so then behavior changes and tweets are getting deleted. There's no clarifications, there's no corrections, just mass deleting tweets, which some are said that they hate men. I'm going to say this again. There is a statement where she claims herself that she hates men. That should tell you everything you need to know, because I believe the word misogyny was thrown around a ton of times. Because you start deleting statements, you're not explaining yourself. You're just managing the exposure of what's being seen now. And it's like one tweet stands out the most. And it's not because it's offensive. It's just because of the entire timing. It was there for years. And then after conveniently this whole shit blows up, she's deleting it. And it's clearly her saying she hates men. That's what it is. She hates men. There was a statement made. She had a replied tweet. And here it is. Yeah, I hate men. Okay, great. Good for you. That tells you everything you need to know about what's going on here. And now everybody's still supposed to feel bad for you, but they don't. And then the consequences arrived. So now we got Infinity Mice telling you fuck off. Solaris GG, fuck off. The sponsors didn't leave because you were being mansplained or because of misogyny or anything. They left because you're a risk. You're a toxic piece of shit, and you've been a toxic piece of shit for a long time. But it was more insulated. These were more isolated incidences before, and now you were on a grand stage being a piece of shit with a spotlight. And this is what happens when you give a piece of shit a spotlight. They will be a piece of shit under said spotlight. And risk isn't what you say once. That's the thing. So it's how you behave under pressure. Brands are not going to cancel people and distance themselves from people that are bringing revenue and putting them in a good light. What they're going to do is they're going to distance themselves from unstable people. And you are clearly the poster child for stability right now, and that's on you. The tournament host initially claimed the decision was his alone, no influence. You can hear him saying, no backlash for nobody else. This is his decision alone, blah, 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 blah. Bro thought he was going to get his baloney washed by some mid-E girls, and it didn't work out. That's all that happened. Let's keep it a buck, bro. Cut it out. And then it is what it is, I don't know. He doubles back and he's claiming that, I did this in haste and it was misinformation. Old girl and her boyfriend basically made a bullshit Google Doc. Who does this? Hold on, I'll be right back. And just immediately goes and conspires against somebody that had them winning the game. I've never seen no shit like this in my life. You're winning. Even if you hate the dude, you're winning. You're winning. Just shut up and swap. I have the person I just don't get it. I personally don't get it. Anyway, clips is surfacing showing, Cece admitting she greenlit the decision, and he's saying it was his alone. But how did all of this happen that fast? In the middle of the tournament, you're jumping on the phone, snitching on somebody, getting ahead of the situation, and it's disgusting. No one's talking about that part. The statements can't all be true. The stories can change, but the facts are not going to change. While tweets were deleted and statements rewritten and sponsors have been lost, the person they tried to erase kept winning. And that's the most important part about this entire situation. They tried to get this dude out. They ridiculed him because he needed the money for school. He's not... I feel like somebody being laughed at for trying is crazy in this day and age, because it's just it's not the first time you've seen this. It's you want to win and they're ridiculing you because you want to win. And it's not really because they don't want to win. It's just that they're not contributing. And rather than to swap, which would have been the easy thing to do here, they're just going to double and triple and quadruple down. No one shows up to a tournament looking to do zero. It's just if I switch now, he's right. So let's take the L. And then of course the friend doubles down. We'll take the L together. That's all. We'll hold hands in this mid-E girl situation. it is what it is. But dude kept winning, and I'm happy for him because that's the way it should have went. And even the developers had stepped in with support. Like, it just has to tell you everything. You know, the dude, I'm happy for Kingsman. I'm just going to leave it that way. This was not about gender, if you say so, because that's what they're saying. But it was definitely fucking about gender, which we've proven already. It wasn't about harassment. Okay. It definitely wasn't about nobody's vibes. It was more about accountability colliding with ego. If feedback feels like violence to you, then chances are then it's a you thing. And comfort should never have to replace excellence. If you're uncomfortable because you're playing like shit, you should really change what you're doing. And it shouldn't take somebody pointing it out, having to have you in the backpack, dragging the whole team on his back like, oh, it's working because we're winning. No, we're winning because I'm killing myself over here, doing more than I should have to. And that he should have never had to point that out. If you're 0-5 in a tournament and there's money on the line, you're not contributing. And this wasn't even about gender, but it was. It definitely was. No one was being harassed, but then they were. And it definitely wasn't about vibes, but depends on who you ask. This was completely about accountability. And anytime feedback feels like violence toward you, that's a you problem, because someone's saying, hey, this isn't working out, let's swap. And you're just like, nah, I'm good. And then you got people doubling down. That's crazy. It's literally crazy. And like I said, you know, like I know, if it was the other way around, that would have never happened. They would have completely jumped all over this dude and whatever. I'm not going to even get into that. The saddest part about all of this is it could have just ended with one sentence. Just, hey, you're right, I'll switch. But instead we get screenshots and deletions and fucking losing sponsors and fake Google Docs and permanent digital records. And that's the abyss. And once you fall into it, you don't lose everything at once. You lose it post by post by post. This was a masterclass on being a stupid bitch. You guys have a good night.